So the New York Giants are really in a new phase right now with a new quarterback room. Obviously, some of the core players are still intact, but this was the offseason where real moves were finally made. And I don't just mean like those small moves, those kind of get me over moves. They did some franchise altering things. They drafted Abdul. They made a pretty shocking move at the time to trade up and select Jaxson from Ole Miss. And Joe Schoen really tried to not give in to any of the offseason noise. He just stuck to the process and continued to build the way this team has been building. And all of this meant that game 1 of the preseason was going to have a ton of anticipation. And it delivered. We got to see both Russell Wilson and Jaxson, and even though I know it's not the same setting as an actual game, you definitely want to see your starters march right through whoever they are playing as opposed to the opposite case scenario. And that is for the most part what we saw in this game. Obviously there are some things to clean up, as any team would have in their first game of the year, but there were a lot of things that I saw that should make you very optimistic as a Giants fan that this franchise is finally about to start to turn a corner. The last decade or so, as we all know, has not really had too much to offer if you're a Giants fan. It's been letdown after letdown, a year of bad quarterback play after another, injuries, players not giving their all. The culture has to shift, and I really think that all starts up top with Brian Daboll and the QBs and Jaxson and Russell Wilson. And also, I can't forget about Jameis Winston. He's going to be a big locker room piece as well. He's always been that guy throughout his career. A guy that can give motivational speeches, and just a guy that's kind of a light when things are going wrong. And also just a guy that can be funny, and he knows when to lock in and be serious and when to try to lift people up and stuff like that. So I just kind of want to break down some of the good plays that we saw in this game. Starting with this one defensively, we see a 4-man front. The Bills are in shotgun, and I want you to watch the secondary, specifically number 41, Micah McFadden. His responsibility the whole way through was the running back, and you could tell he knew what was going to happen on this play and that he studied his film, because there was zero hesitation in his movement, and he met Davis right at the line of scrimmage for an explosive hit. And almost reminded me of a different angle of Gus Johnson's "you got barbecue back there" call with Denzel Ward at Ohio State. Now here, let's start the offensive breakdown out with Russell Wilson. He barely played, but this was his highlight throw. The play starts in 11 personnel and it turned into play action, and in barely even a second, he immediately fired a strike to Wando Robinson, who curled back on the sideline. He's a guy that is going to need to step up for this receiving unit in 2025 big time if the Giants really want to have offensive success, because they have the front end talent. Now it's about balance. They need someone on the back end to be productive to alleviate some of that pressure off of Malik Neighbors and Scatabo. Now on to Jaxson, the real reason why so many people were tuned into this game. Let's start out here in play action. They fake the handoff to freeze the defensive line and up close secondary, and this is one of those timing plays that are not easy to complete in the early portion of the preseason while everyone is still building chemistry, because as a QB, you kind of have to trust that your receiver is going to be in his spot. If not, it's a pick six. But he put the ball on time and on target to Zach Pascal, who then wrestled his way forward for a 9-yard gain. It really seems like the Giants feel like Dart is the most comfortable in shotgun formation, because we saw a lot of it when he was under center in this game. And this was one heck of a play by Washington to turn a short pass into a large gain. He completely froze the initial defender and then showed that burst he has cutting down the sideline for a big 30-yard or so gain. And then this might have been the highlight play of the game, definitely the best throw. In shotgun, again, the Giants had 2 receivers out wide to the left and 1 to the right. The 2 receivers to the furthest outside both run a go route, and Dart sees the one-on-one matchup, and he sees that his guy has a step, and he delivered a perfect ball, a throw with a lot of touch to Lil Jordan Humphrey. You love to see him get a chance to make a play like that in the early portion of the preseason, and I think this throw, even in a preseason environment, really opened up a lot of eyes across the NFL. So that's basically how this game went. Jaxson ended up with 154 yards and a touchdown. Russell Wilson was 6 for 7 for 28 yards, and then Tommy DeVito and Jameis Winston both threw for around 70 yards and had a touchdown. I believe Winston had 62 and DeVito had 73. Dante Miller led the receiving unit with 7 receptions for 80 yards. But I think the most impressive receiver in this game was Montrell Washington, who racked up 60 yards on just 3 receptions, obviously doing basic math, that is 20 yards per reception. And then Humphrey had 36 yards and a touchdown. In terms of the running game, there was really no production in terms of the stats, but I'm not going to completely panic yet. I want to see Dable try to balance this offense, and I want to see more production because Tracy had 9 yards and was the leading back, but at the same time, when the passing attack is dominating and scoring 34 points, on occasional games like this, you don't even really need to run the ball when everything is clicking like that. Alright, so now for the takeaways from this game. I think the main guy that everyone is talking about and the guy that stood out the most was Jaxson Dart. Because as I mentioned in the intro, there really was so much talk about if it was actually a good move to move up and get him. At the time, everyone wanted Shedeur Sanders. The fanbase and also football analysts kind of had like mixed feelings about the pick at the time, but I think one word now that describes why the Giants front office wanted to make the pick is upside. The throw he had to Washington in the left corner of the end zone was one of the purest throws a Giants QB has made in the last 5 years or so, preseason or regular season, and I think it really was a sign of things to come. Obviously, Russell Wilson is going to be the guy under center to start out the year, but if I was a Giants fan, I would be feeling pretty confident right now about the future of this franchise centered around the quarterback position. Again, I know they don't really have like a classified top tier guy behind center, but competency is the word that I think describes this room right now. It's going to be a totally different ball game from what we've seen over the past few years. But defensively, the Giants also got their cornerstone guy on the defensive end in the draft, and that is Abdul. And we got to see him out there. He did not really play much or record stats. He did have an assist on the official scorebook, but it was just nice to see him out there, and he is going to be a big part in what can be one of the best defensive lines the NFL has seen in decades. Maybe that could be an overstatement or an exaggeration, but just looking at things from the outside, man, it's looking scary. Anyways, back to the offense though, I was very complimented throughout this video of Jaxson Dart, but Russell Wilson actually was really solid in the reps that he did get in that first drive. He was driving the Giants down the field pretty effortlessly without the main players. Wan'Dale Robinson was really the only starting receiver that he had at his disposal. Malik Neighbors obviously sat out, and then Scatabo was out on the sideline as well. No need to give those guys reps to risk injury because we know what they're going to provide, and they can build chemistry in training camp. They don't need to do it in these regular season games. But again, even with everyone out and only Wan'Dale Robinson at his disposal, I thought he made some really solid passes, and he looked like he had built some chemistry over the past few weeks in training camp with the second tier guys that were out there. And if it wasn't for 2 penalties by James Hudson, I thought he was going to punch the football into the end zone for 6. This really was one of the first times in quite some time where the Giants were in possession of the football, and you just didn't feel that gut feeling where it was like, oh, we're about to see a bad turnover, an interception, a false start, or just bad chemistry between the quarterback and the receivers. Again, I know at this point in his career, Russell Wilson is not the most glamorous QB to be leading your squad, but he has experience, and it's not like he's 40 yet. He still has something left in the tank, and we saw what Joe Flacco did with the Browns. In the right system, guys like this can always turn back the clock and go on a little run while we wait for the debut of Jaxson Dart. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a very solid win for the Giants, and it's just great to finally see football back on your TV. It's great to watch the game. It's the greatest sport in the world, and fall is just such a great time, man. It's going to be a fun next couple of months. Following this game, a few of the key players held press conferences, so I want to show you some of the best moments and things that were said from that.
Look, there's things he can be better at, but we missed some opportunities on third down, some drops that would even been better for him and for us. But he's a confident young player. He's improved since he's been here. Still got a long way to go, but I enjoy working with him. I like his demeanor on the sideline. Sees the game well. Again, not that we're getting, we got a couple blitzes and things like that, but I'm glad he's here.
Obviously, to be a New York Giant, what a blessing it is to lead these guys and be a part of that. So, I think that every week we just want to keep getting better. And, it's so funny because I think these preseason games mean so much, just being able to get out there and the culture in the locker room to pregame warm-ups to the whole rhythm of how we do that and how we do that really well. And I thought we did a great job of that, even on the sideline, game on the line, just everybody was in tune.
So yeah, good stuff from some of the guys. That's really all I got for this video. Let me know your thoughts about this game in the comments below and what player stood out to you the most. I really appreciate your support. Please be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you did enjoy this one. We are on the road to 60,000 subscribers, and let me know what you would like to see next. And until then, I will see you all later.